face and listening to this voice, you were tuned in to the best kept secret in sports talk. I'm the human facts machine. I'm your friendly neighborhood smoking. You are officially tuned in to the hot seat. And what we do on the hot seat? We set somebody's ass on fire. And who we setting on fire this week? It's going to be my Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to do the second quarter review. I told you all I'm not going to come to you after every Dallas Cowboy game. We're going to do this by quarter, so every 4 weeks. I'm going to have a discussion with y'all about what's ailing me about the Cowboys and here probably what ain't. So here we are, kicking it off. So without any further ado, paying homage to the ghost to my left and my right, you come for the gospel. And goddamn it, I got the truth and nothing but the truth for you. Ding, ding, classes in session. So second quarter review, I'm actually a week late. I should have done this after the Denver Bronco game. But something about that game bothered me. And I didn't know if it was more of an aberration or if there were truly cracks in the foundation for Dallas. So I wanted to see how they performed the following week. The following week being another home game against the Atlanta Falcons. We all know what the fuck happened there. They completely destroyed the Atlanta Falcons. And you look at how badly Dallas looked in that Denver Bronco game. And before I get off track, I think Dallas won that quarter of the season, the second quarter of the season, 2-1, not 3-1 because they had a bye week. So the one loss came at the hands of the actually looked pretty good in that quarter. But anyway, that one loss came at the loss of the Denver Broncos. And so if you remember the last show, right, the last time we talked about Dallas, I told you I had two issues with Dallas. I thought there were two things that could potentially stop Dallas. And it was the offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, and the head coach, Mike McCarthy. I'm going to scale back on Kellen Moore, right? Like, I was a really, really big proponent of doing things that made sense, right? Like doing things in the floor of an offense, doing things that doesn't necessarily complicate things but make things easier. And I thought that ever since I've seen Kellen Moore be an offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, he's done things a little bit radically. He's a radical thinker. I outlined in the last show that I thought he was an amazing play designer. I just didn't appreciate the way he called plays and the sequence in which he called them. Let me tell y'all something. Since that show, I have no problem with Kellen Moore. If I have a problem with someone who produces the highest point-scoring offense in the NFL and the number one offense as it relates to yardage in the NFL, then maybe I'm the goddamn problem and not him. But moreover, he's improved. He runs the ball when it needs to be ran. I think he throws it a tad bit too much. I think he throws it too much for my comfort level, but yet and still it's producing. And it's kind of hard to critique something that's producing numbers, right? And he's producing numbers at a very high clip. He's done this with he has a game or two where he's missed his starting left tackle. He did it for the most part without missing his starting Pro Bowl right tackle. He's done this where a key element to the deep game was gone in Michael Gallup. So using what he had at his disposal, he's still done an amazing job. My issue with Mike McCarthy, it's still there, and I'll explain to you why in a second. But the reason why I didn't record again last week is because in the flow of the game against Denver, although that game was terrible, right? From top to bottom, no matter how you look at it, all three facets of the game, all four if you could include coaching, Dallas got their ass whooped. And watching film, I'm wondering, well, going into watching the film, I'm wondering, is this something schematic? Is this something to whereas the players aren't dialed in, they aren't focused? What actually produced this bad of a performance? And looking at it, if you remember the movie Varsity Blues, if you remember the scene in which they went to the strip club and then went to practice in the game and they just looked fucking terrible, that's exactly what I thought when I saw Dallas play Denver. So, again, I'm watching the film and I'm wondering what the hell is going on. And when you look at the penalties, the mistakes, the turnovers, the fourth downs, the drop passes, if Dallas plays Dallas football offensively, they're in that game. I'm not going to say they would have won it because the one thing the Denver Broncos did that I'm surprised other teams haven't done is they ran the goddamn football. My biggest fear for the Dallas Cowboys is the teeth of the defense. And I think if you are overly physical with Dallas and you run it down their goddamn throats, you'll break Dallas. You'll break that defense. And that's what Denver did. The problem is the game either has to be close or you have to be in the lead to do that. And Dallas has a tendency to pounce on some teams sometimes. And as a coordinator, as a play caller, when that happens, when the team scores in flurries or they score in waves or very quickly, coordinators have a tendency to call games as if one play will erase the entire deficit if it's a double score deficit, right? Or if it's a two position deficit. Coordinators have to. Kellen Moore does this. He has a tendency to call a game as if they're down 50 points and one play is going to erase the entire 50-point deficit. So I haven't seen teams regularly run the ball on Dallas, and I was wondering if more teams would try to. I didn't see Atlanta do that. I saw them go at Kellen Moore. I'm sorry. I saw them target Kyle Pitts. I don't think they targeted Kyle Pitts enough. There was no hangover. And, some people wondering in that Denver Bronco game, was it a good loss because maybe Dallas was smothering themselves too much. And that's one thing about a team that Dallas Cowboys are still young. They don't have a team that has a lot of playoff success. They don't have a team that's have a lot of Super Bowl success or anything of that nature. Players that have gone deep into the postseason. So they're learning, growing, and maturing as they go. So even if you would count this as a game in which, somebody needs to go ahead and slap Dallas on the hand and make them understand that this is the NFL and you have to bring it every fucking week, then maybe there was that game. But here's a great segue into what I think my issue is. Not what I think, what I know my issue to be with Mike McCarthy. So I think Dallas has a Super Bowl ready team, right? I'm not calling them the best team in the NFC, but I think they can compete with any team. And not just compete, but I mean go in there and confidently believe that they can beat any team in the NFC. That'd be the Rams, that'd be the Cardinals, that'd be the Packers, or whomever else you want to name, Bucks included. So I told you my issue with Mike McCarthy is his decision making. He seems clueless at times. He doesn't seem to be as engaged as a head coach as I would like for him to be. But decision making being key, because when you have as much talent as Dallas has, and you play other teams who have a good bit of talent, like a Green Bay or especially like an Arizona Cardinal team, or we all know what goes on down there in Tampa Bay. Usually, what separates teams or what gets teams over the hump is the coaching. Well, let's use the Denver game as an example. Against Minnesota, Tyron Smith sprained his ankle, right? He's out. Nasheki comes in. I hope I'm saying his last name right. Backup quarterback, somehow or another, Dallas has managed to finish that game, get out of there with a W, right? Real proud of their team, hostile environment, backup quarterback, everything working against you. You come out there with a dub. So I'm paying attention to the injury report as the week progresses, and I'm noticing that, they're going to put La'el Collins back in at right tackle, and they're going to swing, what's the right tackle? Steele. They're going to swing Steele to left tackle. I thought to myself, that's a bad fucking idea. And people didn't understand why. You heard some people saying that La'el Collins, this is prior to the game, people saying La'el Collins is a Pro Bowler, he needs to be in there, needs to go ahead and get his feet wet, get back in game condition, so on and so forth. Nah, I wouldn't buy that shit. Because I know one thing for certain, that in football, chemistry is key. You have to be on the same page if you think you're going to be successful. Everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody got to be reading out of the same book. Everybody got to be eating the same goddamn meal. You have to be one cohesive unit. You have to be on the same accord to be overly successful, meaning if you think you're going to be a top tier, a top echelon team, chemistry is key. So when I'm looking at the offensive line, I'm thinking to myself, Steele does an okay job at right tackle, right? He does a good enough job to whereas we didn't miss La'el Collins for the time in which he was gone those 5 games, 4 or 5 games, however many games it was. Whoever you put at left tackle is going to struggle, whether it be Nasheki, whether it be Collins, whether it be Steele. Why, if you want Collins on the field that damn bad, why not put him at left tackle? Or why not even starting the Shecky? My point is, why in the hell did you take Steele, get him out of his comfort zone, and put him at left tackle just to get Collins some reps? Because if you saw the Denver game, you know one thing. Collins got his ass whooped. I'm talking about play after play after play. And on top of that, still didn't look very good at left tackle. I would even say he looked decent. The line as a whole looked bad. And one thing about an offensive line, all it takes is one player for the entire line to look like shit. All it takes is one player. So you have two. You have two players who just happens to man the ends for the offensive line playing poorly. What do you think was going to happen? Right? So you got Dak Prescott coming off a calf injury. You got him behind a makeshift offensive line, to say the least. Your expectations couldn't have been to go in and do what you see a Dallas Cowboy offense normally do. It couldn't have been. All of that falls on Mike McCarthy. Let me tell y'all something. In the past, I've been the biggest Dak Prescott critic. Not to say that I thought he was bad, because I thought he was good. I just didn't think he was what everybody else said he was. I thought that in order for him to obtain the type of money that he wanted, in order for him to get Dallas to where I think we all want Dallas to go, his game needed to be elevated. And I didn't see him do that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm being over analytical. He has progressed. Even when I was making these certain critiques about him, he was still progressing as a quarterback. But when you talk about the elite, that's a very small group of quarterbacks, especially at that time. You were talking about Drew Brees. You were talking about Aaron Rodgers. You were talking about Tom Brady. And maybe, how the hell did I forget Patrick Mahomes? But I thought he was in the second tier. Second tier being Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, whoever else you want to throw in there who you think is a good quarterback. And Brett Coleman. Brett Coleman, to me, is probably the greatest analyzer of NFL film I've ever seen. And I pay attention to his channel a lot. Whenever he drops something, I make sure I tune in. And he did a show. He did a film session on Dak Prescott and why he wasn't the elite of the elite yet. And one of the things he pointed out is, and something that I've seen, or at least I had saw repeatedly, was Dak doesn't trust his eyes and his arm at the same time. There are throws that Dak needed to make at times that he wouldn't make. And he outlined that specifically. Listen, man, I don't have that issue with Dak anymore. Dak has shown to me beyond the shadow of a doubt that he's more willing to anticipate throws now, that he's willing to fit balls in tight places. Doesn't always work out in the best interest of the football team because you'll see a ball sail or get intercepted, but at the very least now he's attempting to. The touchdown he hit at the sideline in the corner with CeeDee Lamb against Atlanta proves that if you look at the time in which CeeDee got out of his break or he made that cut, and you look at where Dak is throwing the football, that's what I had been wanting to see from him for a number of years. That was the Dak Prescott I was looking to see, hey, can he do this to continue to get Dallas to where they need to be? He's their quarterback now. My problem with Mike McCarthy is you need to protect that. That team goes as Dallas goes. Why in the hell would you put Dak Prescott behind a makeshift offensive line? Coming off of a calf injury, no less. There were times in which Dak Prescott took hits in that game that he normally wouldn't take. Make it make sense to me. If you were going to put somebody at left tackle, it shouldn't have been Steele. It should have been Layout Collins. And that detail might be minuscule to you, right? That decision may not be a make or break decision for you. But for me, it is, only because I understand that decisions like this down the line can hinder this football team. Because when you look at the separation between the top 4 or 5 teams in the NFC, there isn't that much separation to begin with. You are probably seeing some cracks in the foundation with the LA Rams. You'll probably seeing the injury bug hit the Cardinals right now. But You are still in the middle of the season. These things can get rectified and they can get healthier as the season progresses. So again, there isn't very much separation. Decisions like this will hinder a football team. Looking at how badly that team played, and it wasn't just the offensive line, the team played bad as a whole. But what I'm telling you is the trajectory of that game changes with Dak Prescott in a clean pocket, with Dak Prescott being able to operate. One thing we have not seen from Dallas this year is the down the field game that you saw in years prior. And I don't mean just getting the ball down the field in big chunk plays. No, I mean the deep pass, the bomb. And you probably could say you haven't seen much of it because Michael Gallup hasn't played because he's normally our deep threat. Nah. In prior years, I've seen Dak use in just a small sample size. I saw him use with CeeDee Lamb last year, and since Amari Cooper has been on the team, I've seen him be a deep threat as well. The reason why you haven't seen that is because Kelly Moore understands with still playing right tackle, he only has so long to throw the football. You have to give those plays time to develop as far as letting the receiver get downfield and get behind the DB. Well, Dallas doesn't really have that at their disposal. They do. You have seen Dak Prescott operate and have a good bit of time to throw the football, but when you look at where a lot of the pressure comes from, it's either coming up the gut or it's coming from his right. This is already, like I mentioned before, the number one ranked offense in the league. It's already the highest scoring offense in the league. People don't understand. There's another gear this offense can hit with the healthy La'el Collins and the healthy Tyron Smith. Think about that. Let that sink in. There is another gear. There's another level that Dak can take this offense to. That offensive line is healthy. My issue with all of this is, outside of what I've already mentioned, is you want to protect the investment you have in Dak Prescott, right? I held my breath when I saw Dak roll out against Atlanta and put his shoulder down, no less, and try to run over somebody to get in the end zone. You don't want to see stuff like that. I mean, he scored, so, what can you say? But at the same time, you don't really want him. You don't want you don't want Dak Prescott taking any hits that he does not have to take. Listen, my dream is for the entire offensive line to be healthy. Everybody. But you know what? That dream don't mean shit if they're not up there protecting Dak Prescott. I also need Dak Prescott to be healthy. You do that by making the right decisions on who the best five are. And not even the best five. Who's going to go out there and be the most cohesion as one unit? You don't mess with chemistry. That's what Mike McCarthy did. These type of decisions will come back to bite you in the ass. And it's not just decisions on the offensive line, it's just with the team as a whole. When you get off into the playoffs or even the deeper part of the season, the separation between teams and getting home field advantage, and when you're inside of the game and this decision needs to be had and the game probably hinges on it, how much faith do you have that Mike McCarthy is going to make the right decision? He's what's stopping Dallas. Dallas not stopping itself anymore. It's him. At the start of the season, after the Tampa Bay game, I thought to myself, here we go, same old Cowboys. They'll find a way to fuck this up. They've changed my mind. The expectation for myself, well, not myself, of course, I'm not playing. But my expectation for the Dallas Cowboys have changed. Not for Mike. And, here we are. They're getting ready to play Kansas City. It's a game that I hear a lot of Cowboys being worried about. They're looking at this as a measuring stick. I'm not. I personally believe y'all are talking about the wrong offense. Y'all spending a lot of time talking about what Dallas is going to do with that Kansas City offense. Kansas City needs to worry about what they're going to do with that Dallas offense. Because the things Dallas can do against that Chiefs defense are endless. Dallas could very well go in there and put up 45 points. That's just how good that Dallas offense is, and that's just how bad that Kansas City defense can be at times. Although they do have about 2 playmakers on their defense, Dallas has weapons everywhere. So I'm not really worried about that game as being a measuring stick because I've seen what I need to see from Dallas. I just need to keep seeing it, right? I don't need to keep seeing from Mike McCarthy, what I've been seeing, because I do think that eventually, at one point, talent may not win out. I do believe that at one point, his decision making could be a detriment to this team, and this team is just too goddamn good to suffer from that. But it's all the time I'm giving you. It's all the time I got. We'll be back in the third quarter. Hopefully my tune will change. Hopefully I won't have to talk to you all this long about the head coach and how much of an idiot I think he can be at times. But we'll see. As always, man, I appreciate your time. I definitely thank you for hitting that play button for me, man. Also, like, share, and subscribe. It does a lot for the channel. You can catch me on Instagram at the High Seat 19. You can catch me on Twitter at the High Seat 19. And again, hey, listen, y'all have a safe holiday. See y'all next time. Y'all be good.